bronze is a man-made metal, then we could understand this verse to say something like this. I looked up again, and there before me were 4 chariots coming out from between the twin towers of the World Trade Center. From what we read in Scripture and the historical events since 9/11, the fulfillment of the first seal prophecy appears to serve as a prophetic witness to the time of the end. This is the first witness to the time of the end. Below is how this would appear on a timeline. Before we examine the second seal, which is the next time of the end prophecy to be fulfilled, I would like to point out something else we should know about the first seal prophecy. The prophet Habakkuk also wrote about events that would take place after the first seal was opened. Compare Habakkuk's first chapter account to the history of what happened when the U.S. military went out conquering following 9/11. Don't forget Habakkuk. Here is some of what Habakkuk wrote about that. I am raising up the Babylonians, that ruthless and impetuous people who sweep across the whole earth to seize dwelling places not their own. They are a feared and dreaded people. They are a law to themselves and promote their own honor. Their horsemen come from afar. They fly like a vulture swooping to devour. They all come bent on violence. Their hordes advance like a desert wind and gather. Prisoners like sand, guilty men, whose own strength is their God. Habakkuk 1, 6-11. I should point out that Habakkuk's prophecies are specifically stated by God to be about the Babylonians, aka the USA, in the appointed time of the end. Missed wake-up call. Now, the first seal prophecy was God's first wake-up call for his people. If Jehovah's people had been awake as the Messiah commanded, they would have been able to recognize that the first seal prophecy had been fulfilled. However, the church was not awake, and they did not recognize from Scripture what had happened. Nevertheless, Jehovah is determined that his people be awake and prepared. Therefore, he is preparing to open Revelation's second seal. Red Horse of Revelation 6. In this chapter, we will be examining Revelation's second seal horse and rider and discussing why this prophecy is so important to God's people. After the first seal was opened, George W. Bush and the U.S. military fulfilled the first seal prophecy when they went out conquering in the War on Terror. In 2001, the U.S. went to Afghanistan conquering the Taliban. In 2003, the U.S. went to Iraq conquering Saddam Hussein. When Christ opens the second seal, the rider on the red horse will start World War. It will be the second seal war and crisis, which finally awakens all the churches to the fact that the time of the end has come. Here is how the second seal prophecy is described in most English Bibles. When the Lamb opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, "Come!" Then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make men slay each other. To him was given a large sword. Revelation 6, 3-4. As we previously read in Zechariah 6, the red horse is one of the 4 spirits of heaven that has gone out from the presence of the Lord. Zechariah's prophecy indicates that the white horses were assigned to the west and the red horses to the east of Israel. Rider on the red horse. Now that the first seal prophecy has been fulfilled, the second seal prophecy will be next. A leader and his military from the east of Israel will start a war. Let's take another look at the Zechariah world map. The map indicates where the colored horses of prophecy have been assigned by Jehovah, based on Zechariah chapter 6. Red Horse of Revelation 6. We are told that the second seal military leader will be given power to take peace from the earth and to make men slay each other. Therefore, the opening of the second seal will mark the beginning of world war. When the second seal opens, war on earth will reach a new level, going from regional conflicts to global. Major world powers like Russia, China, the United States, and others will engage in a global struggle. The second seal will mark the beginning of global conflict in the time of the end. It does not mark the end itself. This second seal war will last for years before the third seal war begins. How will World War begin with the second seal? Second seal prophecy fulfilled. Before we consider the rider on the red horse, let me point out that this second seal prophecy is the second major time of the end prophecy to be fulfilled. This second major end-time biblical prophecy also will serve as a second witness to the time of the end. Every matter must be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. 2 Corinthians 13:1. When the second seal prophecy is finally fulfilled, we will have our second witness to the end time. Then we will be able to scripturally establish that the time has come. Over 24 years have passed since Revelation's first seal was opened on September 11th. Since the Messiah said the time of the end would be less than a generation, the second seal must be very close. If so, it's likely that we have a good idea of who the second seal horse and rider will be. Current crisis. Decades of unsuccessful United Nations sanctions seems to have only increased Iran's resolve to achieve its nuclear goals. In the final months of the Bush administration, and in spite of numerous incentives from the European Union, Iran has redoubled its efforts to reach its nuclear goal. Because all negotiations, sanctions, and incentives have failed to stop Iran, there appear to be only 2 options remaining: attack Iran nuclear sites, or impose a naval blockade to force Iran to stop its nuclear program. Because the Bible does not seem to mention an attack on Iran during the time of the end, a naval blockade appears to be the most likely option that the West will take. With the incredible military might of the U.S. aircraft carrier strike groups, this option seems like it would be effective in forcing Iran to the table. However, there are several things to consider in regard to this course of action. First, to impose a naval blockade on Iran would put the U.S. Navy in harm's way. To blockade Iran would require that a considerable military force be placed just off the shores of Iran, in the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Gulf of Oman. The Persian Gulf region. Second, Iran is reported to have several advanced weapon systems for fighting naval battles, including submarines, rocket-propelled torpedo with a 230 miles per hour velocity, anti-ship guided missiles with a velocity of twice the speed of sound, and ship-to-ship guided missiles with a range of over 200 kilometers. Third, Iran is not known to back down under pressure. Therefore, Iran seems to be a very logical candidate to be the red horse of Revelation's second seal. The world can try to guess who will start World War III, but Jehovah already knows, and here is what he said. Be on your guard. I have told you everything ahead of time. Mark 13:23. If God has told us everything, then he must have told us who the red horse will be. He has. The red horse symbolizes Iran. Iran will fulfill the second seal prophecy. How do I know that Iran is the country that will be taking peace from the earth? There are 3 reasons why I believe this. They were given to me by Jehovah, the God of the Bible. First, I have already explained how I was led by Jehovah to understand the symbolism of Revelation's first 4 seals. That the horses and riders symbolize armies and their leaders, and that the 4 colored horses symbolize the countries which will start each of the first 4 seal wars, like the U.S. started the War on Terror. Second, in September of 2009, the Lord spoke to me in the Spirit and said, "The red horse symbolizes Iran. I have stirred up the kings of the Medes because my purpose is to destroy Babylon." The Lord's statement to me both told me and showed me a key piece of the second seal prophecy. The first sentence of what he said, the red horse symbolizes Iran, identified for me who the second seal country would be. Third, the second sentence of what he said, I later identified as something that Jehovah had given to Jeremiah regarding the end-time Babylonians. Here is what Jehovah told Jeremiah about the time of the end. Sharpen the arrows, take up the shields, prepare for war. Jehovah has stirred up the kings of the Medes, because his purpose is to destroy Babylon.